talking about schools, a number of Gauteng pupils were this time last week still waiting, in fact more than 1,000, to be placed at public schools when schools reopened last Wednesday inland. The Education MEC in the province, Matome Chiloane, is with us in studio tonight to talk more about the situation. A very good evening to you, MEC. Thank you so much for joining us. So I think over the weekend, the number of people whose placement was pending was at just over 500. Where is it now?
Good evening, Tebegile. Good evening to your viewers. We're placing every day, so we have not really consolidated, because I said to the officials that let's place as much as possible, so that when we report, rather report a conclusion, because there's too little. But as things stand, we are well ahead. We have dropped below 500. I will be releasing an actual figure in a statement by Thursday, where we'll tell you this is where we are finally. So we are at the tail end of this difficult process.
Is there a target, though, for how many people you want to place daily?
Want to place all of them ordinarily, but however, there are parents who are receiving messages. We have set a target for all of them, that it was the 30th. By the looks of things, we would have met the target way before.
Because there was talk of a 10-day deadline, wasn't it? Even the Education Minister and Jim Secha was hopeful that this could all be resolved within 10 days.
Yes. Usually when we give ourselves 10 days, the first 10 days to determine what is the capacity of how many learners. So we do a roll call for all the learners that we have, and we're able to determine where are the spaces. So that we can place the learners. So that's why we give ourselves enough time of 10 days. We're ahead of time with regard to that. As you know, the last time we reported official figures of 571, we're placing. There are parents who are receiving messages. I'm sure if you can even go to our districts, you'll find that the queues have become much smaller because of how much work we've been putting in this. We're really on. We've got our hands, our eye rather, on the bouncing ball with regard to placement. So we will meet our target, definitely.
But how are you placing these children? I mean, 1,300 children waiting for placement this time last week. One of the issues between the Education Department and the parents was that there appeared to be disagreement in some of the cases, a lot of cases, in fact, where parents wanted their children to go to a nearby school, but they were saying that, in fact, where the Education Department is directing them to go was problematic because of distance and other factors. So with these that you're placing now, are those issues not recurring?
We are talking to parents. We're appealing also to parents to work with us. That as much as you would have preferred a particular school that's next to you, but when the school has reached its maximum and beyond capacity, because we're going over and above in terms of placing this, work with us to accept the placement that we're offering you. And some parents have really come on board and have agreed. And they've agreed to their kids going to those schools. There are incidences that we're going to, where we see that perhaps there's distance. We're looking into also resolving the issue of scholar transport. We do have scholar transport, and we'll be setting it up for those situations, depending on the number of learners that will be from a particular area to a school.
Is it a take it or leave it scenario at this stage in the game?
Not really, no. We have the interest of the child and the parents at heart. We listen.
But it's one thing to listen, but do parents aren't necessarily getting what they want. So do they get first? They're not getting first preference in some of the cases, clearly. Do they then get second, third, or fourth preference?
It depends on the space where it's available. And the type of support that we have put in place to ensure that we assist the parents as well.
So it'll be take it or leave it in some cases?
Parents are taking it. They are working with us. Yeah.
But ultimately, it's a matter of, in some of these instances, what you get is what you get. And if you don't accept it, then hard luck.
No, we are working with them. We're working to a situation where what we give them and they agree to is something that we are both happy about.
So if they say no, let's say you say to them, okay, you live in, let's say you live in the Woodmead area, for example, but we can only place your child in Tembisa. And they say, well, I'm not happy with that. Where are you able to meet them then if you're able to still have a conversation?
No, that's a rational example. Tembisa and Woodmead is too far. We're looking at a reasonable radius and we're also looking at multiple factors. We're looking at the work, where do you work? Because when we place your child, we also look at how the work address, the home address, the siblings. So we are still looking at those factors as and when we place your child. So those factors have not gone away. We're still working with those particular factors in terms of the placement. So that's why we're able to get parents to agree to some of the schools that we're placing. So we're very rational. There's no way. I saw even one article that we're taking a child from Tembisa to Soweto. It doesn't exist. There's no such.
So if we were to go through the full list, there wouldn't be cases where kids are that far from where they live?
There's a home address, there's a work address. You might find that the home address may be there, but in terms of your application based on the work address, a parent is working here, and then we're placing the child next to where the work address. It's something else.
The other challenge outside of the issue of these late placements is that already coming into the reopening of schools last Wednesday, there was already a great number of people who had put appeals through the process. To what extent is that delaying education and schooling at the moment?
No, the appeals were pushing them daily. And remember, once the appeals have signed them off, they're final. There's no more any other discourse. And most of the appeals, there are appeals that were upheld, that we've agreed with parents. Maybe let me just put that forward, so that it doesn't seem that they come to the MEC's office and then they're done. That's it. If they're there, the MEC will reject. No, the MEC has upheld quite a number of appeals where we had looked at multiple factors as to what's within the presentation or the argument by the parents, and we've agreed with them, and we're able to do what they want to see happen. Some are more of preference, but we are able to also speak to the parent to show, look, your child has been placed not very far from the school that you preferred. If you want the school, and then we place your child maybe a school that is 2 or 3 Ks or 5 Ks away, it's not, we're not being unreasonable in that regard.
So do the parents affected by, who are part of this 1.3, that were still waiting for placement, are they allowed to appeal?
Yes, those ones are allowed to appeal, because those ones are allowed to appeal, yes, definitely.
How many appeals are waiting to be resolved still, a week into schooling?
No, we've dealt with majority. I think there are less than 1,000 now.
But it's still a lot, less than 1,000. That means there are less than 1,000 children who are still waiting for clarity as to where they're going to go and attend school.
No, some of these parents have taken their kids into those schools because the appeals mostly is about preference. I wanted this school, and you are taking my child to this school. That's majority of the appeals.
What are the implications ultimately for the business of teaching and learning? Because if you've got, however, hundreds of children waiting to be placed in a classroom, a week after their peers have now started a new school year, some of them, in this instance from the online application system, are supposed to go to grade 1, a crucial grade. Some are starting high school. That on its own is anxiety-inducing. Who becomes responsible for making sure that if they do get placed, let's say, this week or next week, 2 weeks after reopening, they're fully caught up and brought up to speed with learning and not actually disadvantaged at that level?
No, we're speaking to our schools. They know that we're busy with placement. And we've already prepared them that as and when we place, we are expecting them to assist those learners to catch up. So some are coming with different mechanisms to assist those learners to catch up. And what I can tell you, by end of the second week of February, because we would have placed all before end of January, most of these learners would have caught up with what loss of learning time they would have experienced by staying by now currently. The few that we have.
But it is unfair, though, is it not, at some degree, even for the teachers, when you consider that you now have to go back, let's say, a week into teaching a new class, getting acquainted. I mean, you look at public schools, we all know just the volumes of work and the pupils that each educator has to face every hour. So to now have to go back and help perhaps even 2, 3, 5 new children is unfair.
Teaching is a calling. You know,
but it's an inconvenience that they shouldn't have to suffer because there are issues with a system that they're not in charge of.
We're really appealing to our educators to really work with us. Look, it's not an ordinary situation. We don't want to be in this situation.
You agree it's unfair, though?
No. I will not speak about unfairness and fairness. I'm
saying
the situation is that it's not of our own making per se. We are doing well. They're doing a great job. That's why everybody wants to bring their children into this province to come in and study here.
Doesn't mean that they should face an extra obstacle as educators, parents, and children, though. Because if the system was doing well, why are we having the same conversations every year? Over 1,000 children not placed at the beginning of the academic year. Yes, I know that over 200,000 were placed, but that is still a problem. Why have we not been able to address that to its fullest and be able to handle those issues, put them to bed by the first day of school?
We're dealing with a lot of immigration. The system assists us a lot. The system is actually a blessing to us as a department and also to the parents. I really do wish they could see that way. Because you could imagine from 2,000 schools, we have almost 300,000 people queuing in lines, not knowing where the space, where do they drive to find space for their kids. It would be a disaster. So with the system, we're able to do it automatically online. We're able to see where the spaces allocate, place learners where the school is full, move to the next. So it becomes easier. And
how's it an immigration issue, though? What science is there to say that is what's now leading to what we've seen in the last week?
No, you know that generally throughout the world there's immigration into urban centers. Gauteng is no exception. We get over almost 100,000 plus learners coming from outside our province into our system every year. So,
but some of them apply on time, don't they?
No, in terms of application is one thing, all right? But in terms of allocation of space, for example, now, once we're done placing, you would move in with an assumption that the system is full until we leave grade 12's exit, and also you have a grade 7's exiting into grade 8. Then they will create space in grade 1. However, now you have another 100,000 that is coming in every year, adding to that number. You know, and look, we do plan ahead, but the infrastructure
the planning needs work.
Yes.
Can we agree on that, MEC, that yes, the planning and the system itself need some improvement?
No, leave the system. The problem is that perhaps, and also the rapid development throughout our province, throughout Gauteng, where it used to be one household, now you have got flatlets where you've got eight households from a property where it used to be one. So that puts pressure on the school. You know, so that's what some of the challenges. So we are not building enough schools at adequate pace, and that's where we are. But hence we've come with multiple approaches in terms of increasing the capacity of schools.
Well, you built 20 this year, because Premier Lesufi said when schools reopen that ideally in Gauteng what you actually need is to open, something like one school a month possibly. Can you build 20 in this year?
Yeah, definitely. We can do anything. Anything is possible.
Will you do it?
No, we're targeting to build more schools, and we'll build a lot more schools.
Give us a number that we can hold you accountable to.
Hold me accountable to the Premier's number.
20?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So what happens if you don't build 20?
Go and ask the Premier.
What sanctions should you face?
No, there's no sanctions. Look, we're building schools.
There should be, though.
No.
There should be consequences if you don't meet your own target.
Look, we have plans in place to build schools. Maybe we might not open them up this year. But we're starting a process where we will be building quite a number of schools. We're opening, we know for now where we're sitting, we've got about 5 to 6 schools, 4 schools rather, that will be opening. 3, because we've already done 1. So there are 3 more schools that will be opening this year. But in terms of starting to build, because the time frame to build a school is not necessarily 3 months or 4 months. It takes time. So we're going to start now, and then for most probably next year, we'll start opening more schools.
Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chiloane, thank you so much for coming in tonight, sir.